everyone. Welcome to the Cynthia Linox Show. I am your host, Cynthia Linox. I am really reveling in my Savage season. I already shared with you that you can name your season, whatever you want to name the chapter of your life that you are in. You're welcome to do that. Now, if you have not named your season, you're welcome to join me in this Savage season chapter of my life, of your life, this Savage season expression. Because what it is, really, it's allowing me, and I'm going to just talk for me for a second so that I can articulate to you what it's doing to me. It's me giving myself permission to really augment my authenticity. And what that means is to continue not to dim my light and continue not to make excuses over anything. Magnify my nose. When I mean nose, expand my boundaries if I find it necessary to do that. And just really come into the fullness of who I am. This is not a period where I will be, where I chase anything or obsess over anything. I am not about to grind or hustle. Those days are over. Not even goals and things of that nature. I am positioning myself so that my goals and the things that I desire, I just want to magnetize my goals and watch them unfold in my presence in real time. Comes a place where you know that you know, and it's no longer I believe this or I am trying to manifest this. None of that. It's a place where you know that you belong. You know that you are deserving of the things that comes your way. The things that come your way, you are deserving of it. And what I find is that when you approach life, any situation with that mindset, the universe is not unbiased. The universe is not biased. It's unbiased. When you project that, it has no option but to deliver. And when I say universe, for those of you that have another concept of like people would say, I know there's something out there, some force, some call it source, creator, God, the greater one, universe, whatever it is that you define, whatever works for you, that's what you're going to use to regard that thing as. For me, it's the universe. And, I'm talking now about allowing my goals to magnetize my goals toward me, to bring the things in. It's like I think about the things and they just come in. I don't know how or when or none of that, because that doesn't concern me. I just know that it's going to happen. And we had an experience over the weekend, my husband and I. we our kitchen floor, we are planning to do some not remodeling, but to change our kitchen floors. About 5 years ago, we bought some floors. We bought some new floors for the kitchen, and we went to this particular store, and we selected the wood type, and very nice. Looked very nice and so forth. So we had them install it. This is 5 years ago. And a few months ago, my husband noticed that it's kind of buckling, like some of the panels, the planks, I guess you call it planks panel, are buckling. And so we just kind of kept an eye on it. And, my husband is not one that he doesn't wait for stuff to get bad. He addresses it right away and fixes things before they break down. So he said the other day, we need to go and we need to replace these floors. So we went to the store. And we thought we would just go in, select the new floors that we want, and do the transaction and have them come out and replace it. So we go to the store and we selected the floor, and nice tile and so forth, porcelain tile. And so we got the salesperson and we said, we want to buy this tile for our kitchen and so forth. And we said, we bought tiles here, not tiles, but we bought flooring here 5 years ago, and here we are replacing it. And she said, 5 years ago? She said, we said, yes. She said, well, that should be under warranty. And my friend, we did not even think of that. We did not even consider or even thought that there would be warranty on the floors at all. So she looked up the file and whatever, and she found everything. And she says, yeah, here you are, 2020. 2020, yeah, is when you replace these. And so she said, no. She said, you need to file a claim. This should be under warranty. Go to customer service. So we go to customer service, and everybody was so nice, gave the information, filed a claim, and then I get a call during the week from the, I guess you call that person an adjuster. I don't know. She's the one that manages the claims for the flooring and things, whatever. So she calls during the week, and she wanted to know how many planks were buckling and so forth. So I didn't even entertain that. I said, let me make this clear. We're not about to replace planks or, panels of tile. We are not about to do that. We are replacing the entire floor because it may be this part right now, but then down the road, you have another area that's buckling, and we're not going to go through that. So whatever it is the manufacturer is going to do, because in our minds now, we are thinking it was a defective product. That's what we put in our minds. And I said, so let it be known to the manufacturer that we are replacing the entire floor, that the entire floor needs to be replaced. So she calls me back after, I guess, a couple of days. She spoke with the manufacturer and said that, okay, they're going to replace the whole floor. And she said, but it has to be from this same manufacturer within the selection of this manufacturer. We were okay with that because it's a huge manufacturer, and they have different types of not only wooden floors, which is what we weren't going to choose anymore, but porcelain, tile, and stuff like that. So, and then she said, they will replace the whole floor, the whole kitchen floor, but the installation is not under warranty because that was only 2 years. And I said, we need to have some clarity on this. And I said, we bought the floors, we bought the tiles, we couldn't have it installed, we couldn't have it without the installation. So we bought all of that from you. And if the panels, if the flooring, the product was defective, then we really wouldn't want to escalate this, and we would want you to make a decision to include installation and everything. The point is, they're going to replace the whole floor, the whole flooring with, they're going to do everything, send out the person to do the measurement, and they're going to do everything, installation and all. Now, we went there with the thought to, we were going to be out, a few $1,000s to replace the floors, because of course we were going to choose something, a little more, higher grade or something else. We didn't want to know what we had. And here we are, it's like money into your pocket. Why? Because first of all, if we didn't get that salesperson that told us, if we had gotten someone else that just took our order and started to didn't pay attention to what we said, that we had it done 5 years ago. If we got someone who didn't care about that, we would have been out a few $1,000s. But we got this particular salesperson that took an interest in us, and she said, no. She said, no, this should be under warranty. And my husband and I looked at each other like, why didn't we didn't even think of that? Certain things, anyway, we just didn't think of that. And then we went through the steps, and then it's funny because once I understood the whole dynamics of it, I got a little, badassish, because I said, it's like her telling me the installation is not covered. I said, no, we don't want to have to escalate this, because You did the job, and if it has to be replaced, we can't just buy the tile and then. So my point is this: here's a goal that we had, a need, a want, a desire, a necessity, actually, that would have cost us thousands of dollars, a few $1,000s, and we just went there, totally relaxed, not upset. We weren't, we just thought, let's go choose and then get it in motion to start the installation. And here we are not out a dime. We're going to be out inconvenience, but that's okay. We're trying to get it done like quickly before before the holidays and so forth. But you see, so when I talk about magnetizing, your goals and the things that you want, the things that you desire, um, it will come. It will come. And we weren't saying, "Oh, universe, make this happen, make this happen." No, we weren't prepared to pay. But the universe works in such a way that you go, you relax, and in our minds, okay, we're going to do this, and it just showed up in a way that we did not anticipate. So you see, this savage season of ours is a time where you just rest. It's a time where you're not compromising. Uh, it- it's a time where you know, and you walk with such a confidence. Remember, I talked about your sexual energy. It gives you a certain confidence, assertiveness, and boldness, so that you can walk with a certain confidence, and instead of projecting force and a lot of effort and all that, what you're doing is you are attracting things toward you. You are attracting uh opportunities, and it's kind of hot in here. You are attracting things toward you. You're attracting things toward you. And that has to do with your goals, the things that you want to do. The main thing is that you understand that you are deserving. You are deserving. You don't have to, don't try to get too busy. This, again, savage season. I just, my appointments now are coffee dates, or let's have a glass of wine. I already have appointments set up for this week. And I'm so looking forward to it because they're business, well, business, social, and so forth. And it's just very pleasant. I don't have to, no, it's a place of rest. And I invite you to walk in that new chapter of your life, and name it whatever you choose to name it. Give yourself permission to recreate. Give yourself permission to reinvent. Give yourself permission to redefine. As a matter of fact, I was studying some things here on the spiritual revolution of pleasure. I'm going to be looking over here because I made some notes as I wrote. I read, I write, I study, and I'm just fascinated with the things that I am learning, because what happens is that as I learn something, I go and check, fact check, and make sure that I am delivering truth and not just my opinion. And when I talk about the spiritual revolution of pleasure, it's really redefining purity. Redefining purity. Many of you have issues with your own personal sexuality and the understanding of it. And what I'm sharing with you today is that it's important that you understand that You were not you were not born with guilt. You were not born with shame. You were not born with judgment. You have to understand the purity that embodies you, that you embody. The purity. It's not the absence of sin, it's the presence of truth within you. Understand that. And once you understand that, you would understand that, see, we have been taught to be ashamed of our divinity. And you have to see your body as a pure vessel and not hide your desire under modesty or equate holiness with restraint or confuse guilt with virtue. All of that are construct that we have been taught and programmed and indoctrinated. And your body never lies. Your body is not going to lie to you. It brings you to remember what your soul already knows. Pleasure is not the opposite of purity. It is proof of life. And once you understand that, you will look at yourself totally different. Once you have the understanding, what this is doing, my friend, is deprogramming the conditioning that you have had for years. Because your sexuality it's not a sin to manage. It's a sacred frequency. The current, divine current that flows through you to awaken creation itself. It allows you to feel deeply, desire fully, and express freely. Spiritual power in motion. And it's not rebellion, it's reclaiming what's already yours. It is reclaiming what is already yours. Understand this. We are redefining purity, not as abstinence, but as alignment. Once you are aligned with yourself and know that your the desires and the feel good, the pleasure that you feel in your body, it's not wrong, it's not dirty, it's not bad, but it's pure. It's divine current flowing through you. Your body is not lying to you. It is the truth of who you are. And once you understand that, then you can embrace the truth of you and your sexuality and get rid of the conditioning, because that's what's happened. We have been so programmed and conditioned that it's taken us out of alignment. And what happens is that we have to get into a place of alignment, because when you are in alignment with who you are, things begin to flow. Things begin to flow in your life. Why? Because you are rightly aligned. If you're not aligned, then you're like over there and scatter and you have to remember this and perform this way, and you cannot be authentic. Why? Because you are walking in shame, in guilt, in judgment, in all of that. And you were not created. It's interesting. It's important that you were not created to suffer. Suffering happens because of lack of knowledge, certain things we don't know, and people are destroyed because they don't know, lack of knowledge. You were not created to suffer. You were not created to have lack. You were not created for pain. You were not created for any of that. Yeah, life happens, but in your mind, if you because you have the ability to reprogram your thinking. you have the ability to reprogram, because remember, when you were born, you were like free as a bird. You didn't have anything on the chip, your computer chip, and everything that's in there now, um, everything that's in there now uh, has been programmed, conditioned, indoctrinated. So we live performatively. We perform. And when we do things because of the conditioning, you feel shame or guilt or judgment. You feel unclean, impure, unclean. Now, if you were to ask yourself, when was the first time you felt um, guilty for feeling good? When I was creating my notes and things like that, I thought, when was the first time I felt guilt for feeling good? When I was young, I went to Catholic school, and Catholic school, there's some, at least, anyway, it's different. But indoctrination starts from, I don't know, from when you're 5 years old. And all of us have been indoctrinated. And that's why we had a year of a journey of self-discovery. And we are still going through that journey of self-discovery. We are just discovering new things about ourselves. And we are now coming out boldly with who we are, with the level of knowledge and of understanding of who we are, of who you are. And we're shedding all the old cloak. If you don't shed the old, there's no room for the new. But when you shed, it's like when you shed your skin, when you shed anything, new skin emerges. When you rest and you get rid of all the exhaustion out of your body, you wake up refreshed. When you deprogram the programming that's been by default, the indoctrination, the programming that has been imposed upon us and shaped our identity, we walk around being the person that we're really not. There's a situation with this person that's married to someone. Well, she's a person, woman. She's married and had a situation with and newlywed, had a situation in the marriage where her husband had an affair, cheated, and had a baby outside. And they're going through some kind of a turmoil and things of such, and it's just really bad. And this person is always saying, she's always saying, well, they were separated, her and her husband, and he wants to come back. He wants to come back, and she took him back. And all she can think about, all she says is, I have to submit because the Bible said I have to submit. And she is so angry. She have these outbursts and these spurts. A lot of things triggers her because she's hurt. She's got pain, emotional pain, because of that sort of betrayal. You have a baby on the outside, that baby's there to stay. And she has to deal with that. I think he's, pretty interesting that she took him back because she did. Even though, according to her doctrine, infidelity, she could have divorced him, but she chose not to. She chose to stay. And everything, every time she wants to do something, she says, I must submit. the Bible says I have to submit. I have to submit. And I watched that situation and I said, wow, that's really interesting because this person is really angry. They are so angry. They are so angry in that relationship. It's really interesting because I was thinking about relationships recently, and when people that have been married for a long time, like 30, 40, 50, 60 years, and everybody applaud and they think it's such a big deal and so forth, and we really praise longevity in a marriage. And I was thinking about that because I don't really applaud the longevity. What I would applaud is the quality of the relationship. Because one couple was married for and this is another situation, married for like 50 years, but come to find out, the husband has like five baby mama outside, but he's been with his wife for 50 years. That's reality. That is real life. And when I talk about authenticity, I am not referring to just, okay, so you have 50 years. 50 years of what? Of misery? Unhappiness? Lies, deceit, infidelity? That doesn't, we're in the 21st century, my friend. That does not constitute, well, I guess chronologically, or 50 years is 50 years. 50 years of what? Endurance? Enduring mistreatment? Think of that. And some of you may be going through that right now. And people do it for different reasons. I know in my personal life, I grew up, my mom is there's just no other mother like my mom. She is just a woman of virtue. My mom is just, sharp and wise, smart, intelligent, all of that. My dad, a hard worker, with a strong desire to be a good provider for his home. And he gave us everything that we forget our needs. Our needs were met. Everything we wanted that he could afford, he gave us everything that we wanted, and he took pleasure in that. My dad was a great provider in that sense. But I would say, now that I'm an adult, he wasn't the ideal husband. He wasn't the ideal husband. And my mom had a goal. My mom had three girls. I have an older sister and I have a younger sister. So we are three girls. And because of the lifestyle, and remember, way back, it was a little different because today, we are more educated and we are more confident, and there are more opportunities for us to get up and go and find a life that's a life of pleasure, delightful. And so my dad, he owned a business. My mom managed the business, and she was really good business manager. And he worked also for the Panama Canal and so forth. So we were good financially in our. So my mom, even though my dad was not the ideal husband, my mom wanted us to grow up in the environment that we had. It was pleasant. It was comfortable. It was abundant. There was a lot of abundance. And she sacrificed her life for her three girls. And then my older sister, they sent her to the US, and she became a nurse and so forth. They sent us here to further our education. We were in boarding school, and anyway, so we came afterwards later to go to college over here in the US. And my older sister came first, I came second, and my younger sister came third. Once we were gone, once we were gone, my mother said, enough. She said, enough. And through a series of events, unbeknownst to my dad, because, he was not always around, she arranged to leave the country. And he didn't find out till about a week later. And my mom said, enough, enough. And what was she saying? Enough of aguantar, put up with, aguantar, that's in Spanish. Enough putting up with this type of treatment. She had dignity, but she sacrificed that for us, her three girls. Why? Because she wanted us to grow in an environment that was comfortable. She didn't want to leave and then have to struggle as a single parent with, well, back then that was not even an option, because that's just not the way it goes. It went, at least in Latin America. So she stayed, she endured. That's why I adore my mom, because that's not something that I would even consider. That's not, kids. If I had 10 kids, I'll just haul all of them and just do whatever. But to go through that type of, mistreatment, no, or disrespect, actually. And after we, all three of us came up here to study, and she packed and she came to the US, took out some kind of certification as a baby nurse, not a real nurse, but like a baby aftercare for the baby. And she had clients that were upscale, and they loved her. And she would, the young woman had the baby, and she would be set up in a room, and the baby, and take care of the baby and so forth. And she made a lot of money. My mom started going to cruises. She went on a cruise, and always going out to shows and to the casino and to a fashion show. She started to live. I wish she had met someone else and, whatever. But the point is, at that point, she wasn't even thinking about that. She was only thinking about being alive, coming alive and living, and not having to be afraid or concerned or embarrassed because of the disrespect or any of that. She had to learn what it was to be free. And, I just wish, if I had my mom, then we would be talking about, authenticity and self-discovery and all of that. She was just happy to be free. She didn't have to ask permission. She didn't have to account for anyone. She got her own place to live, and paid her bills, because my mom was very good with money financially. Paid her responsibility, and lived well, and she just had a life. As a matter of fact, when my husband and I was once going on a cruise, Caribbean cruise and whatever, and I just called her. I said, Mom, why don't you come with us? She said, sure. Listen, she bought her ticket and booked booked the her cabin on the ship, and she sailed with us. That was my first cruise. And I got a little dizzy. I didn't have that Dramamine thing. And that was our first cruise. And I got a little dizzy. And she and my husband, they, went down there and had some fun in one of the, night parties or whatever. I was so happy for my mom. Why? Because the latter part of her life, she became alive. She became alive and start living. She just, and my mom was a beautiful woman. She was a good looking woman. And, but she was just learning to be herself, learning confidence. And I, whenever situations with her, whatever. I remember I would get on a plane and go to, because she lived in New York City, and I would go to New York. And one time she had some situations with some, I don't know, the phone coming in, whatever. I got on the phone, and I was like her advocate in everything, and I loved it. But the thing is, she recreated herself. She reinvented herself. Now remember, that is like a way past generation. Today we're in the 21st century, and we have so much at our disposition. We have so much at our fingertips that we can get answers to everything in a matter of seconds. My mom didn't have that. And she was not even dependent on like financial provision from my dad. She's like, no, no, no. I'm gonna take care of myself. I'm telling you, my friend, I am so proud of my mom. And if you are going through a situation, regardless of what it is, know that you can just have a plan. And my mom just had a thing of being just smooth and quiet. She moved with quiet confidence. I don't know what they called it back then, but she would just, I remember one time I was, saying, Mom, you got to get this, you got to get, and she's like, no, no, no. She says, let me just know when it's time, because she wasn't one that she would like, run up a credit or anything like that. She would like, she wanted to do things cash, or at least, have the money to pay for it when, and her style was so good. I wish, I wish if my mom would have met someone else, and because she was pretty young at that time, and my mom was ageless, and but that didn't happen, and she was good with that. Well, I don't know, because we didn't have that conversation. She was just happy regardless, because she just picked up and she just went places. She had a lot of friends. I remember one time I said to her for her birthday, I said, Mom, pick a friend. I said, any friend. And we're sending you to the Bahamas, you and your friend. Pick any friend. And she picked this friend, and we sent her to Newport, I think, Bahamas, to the Bahamas, and for a week. And, we booked the room and all of that, and she went there, and she had her own spending money to go to the night shows and the casino and all that in the Bahamas, and she had a fantastic time. She was not afraid to move around. If my dad, when she was with my dad, she couldn't do that, because that whole generation, that whole mindset was totally different. She had to rewire her mind and come to the place where she understood her freedom. She had to learn her new freedom, and how to enjoy it. And when I share with you about uh, redefining yourself, your freedom, your sexuality, your purity, and know who you are, so that you can walk in that uh, authenticity, knowing who you are. That's your revolution, my friend. That is your revolution. The ability to feel, the ability to have desires, the ability to enjoy your own body, the ability to exist without shame or guilt or judgment. Imagine that you are existing without guilt or judgment or shame, and also without fear, because a lot of people are governed by fear. Fear. Healing your sexuality is not about becoming someone new. It's just going back. It's remembering to who you were originally to begin with, returning to who you are before, returning to your divine self before you were conditioned with the information and the conditioning, the programming, the indoctrination, shaping your identity into someone that you are not. And that's why so many, some are just uh, existing. Do you know how many people are just simply existing? There are a lot of people that are simply existing, doing the same thing over and over and over every day, every month, every week, over and over the same thing. That, my friend, is existing. And then there are also those um, that are tight with their grandchildren, which is a nice thing, but it's not your life. Your grandchildren's life is not your life. That's their life. And it's going to come a point where they are going to be busy with their, smartphone and want to be with their friends. And I think I've shared this before. This person that I know, the her granddaughter, 16 years old. It was like a sweet 16 party, big sweet 16 party. And the father spent a lot of money to have this big, extravagant party. And the granddaughter, 16 years old, had all her friends there. And in reality, the granddaughter expressed or stated that she would prefer that the older folks leave. She wanted it to be just her and her friends. That's not a matter of good or bad, right or wrong, true or false. It's simply the way it is. And it's not a bad thing. They just wanted to be expressive and they didn't want the older folks there. Well, then the daddy said, absolutely not. I paid for this party and we will be there. The whole older generation. And they hung around. And then, of course, the music was totally different because you're talking about, I guess that would have been Gen Z. Gen Z, yeah. So it's about you. It is all about you redefining who you are, understanding yourself, your sexuality, your divine connection with source. Because you are it. It's not like out there. You are it, my friend. We are breaking the silence around sacred pleasure. We are making ourselves understand that it is our birthright. It is your birthright to embrace all of your divine purity and the sense of self and your desires and your understand the nature of who you are, free from guilt, free of fear, judgment, shame, because those are very powerful influences on our lives, especially those that grew up under strong indoctrination. There are people that won't make a move because you don't do it this way. I can't do this. I can't do that. And this morning, my husband and I, we had this conversation, and he said you should be. He's so funny. He said you should be happy with me for eternity because I took you out of that situation. We just laugh about it. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And I'm eternally happy because he said, because if I did not wake up, or, he was never asleep. He was just kind of like with me. He said, if I did not decide, he didn't say wake up. If I did not decide, I'm done with this, you would still be there. He said, just like everyone else, the people and that's true. Now for my mom, that was a whole different thing. She wasn't under any kind of indoctrination because we didn't grow up like my mom was like spiritual. She wasn't religious. She was like a spiritual person, and she kind of knew, not kind of, she knew who she was. She knew her essence, and but she never really gave them words. She just was. She was herself, and she had this quiet sense of confidence and assertiveness. It was just beautiful to talk to her. And she was kind of like a no nonsense kind of person, but she was funny and she could laugh, and we could just we had such a great time. She and I would call her, I used to call her Corazon de Melon, which is like my little melon heart. Doesn't translate the same. And we would be on the phone for like a couple hours just talking, talking, talking. She knew who she was. Even back then, that generation, she knew who she was, and she embraced her freedom. She embraced the her desires, the things she wanted to do. And when I say, I'm sending you to the Bahamas and whatever, she went, she had her money, and she could go to the casino because she enjoyed that. She would put a little $5 in them, whatever she did, and just have a good time. She just enjoyed that. She wasn't playing to win. She just, well, when I say she wasn't like gambling, she just was having a good time. Her and her female friend. It was really amazing. Now that I'm sharing this with you, I'm thinking back and I'm like, wow, that was really worthy of admiration because coming from that background and then you come to a big city like New York and live such a wonderful life. The last half of her the last years, I would say, of her life, it was fantastic. She had a beautiful life. And I'm saying that to you, my friend. Don't just exist. I don't care what the situation is with you. Just don't exist. Even if you are not able to get around, get online and find something to do. There's so many opportunities online that you can get involved in. You can start some kind of a thing or helping people, or you can really have a great life. There are a lot of people on social media that I'm seeing that's really, there's one girl in particular, and that I really admire, and she talks about living life to the fullest. Her take is a whole different, she comes from a whole different structure, dynamics, but it's lovely. I love it. And and I glean from that. And I share this with you because a lot of people, I don't know, a lot of people are just waiting. You don't have time to wait because tomorrow you could be dead. And I don't mean to sound gruesome, but you don't have time to wait. You can't wait until things get perfect because you know what? Time doesn't exist. Time is now, right now. Time is right now. Time does not exist. Yesterday doesn't exist and tomorrow doesn't exist. Do we make plans? Of course we do. But time doesn't exist. The only time that exists is right now. And I've come to such a place that I don't, if I set goals for something, if it doesn't work out, so big deal. I just set other goals. I don't, at this point, this savage season is really seasoning me to another type of mindset, bringing me to a place of, the people in my life. I am coming to understand that not everyone, in my book, in my story, some people are only a chapter. Some people are only a page. Some people come into your life, they're just a line. And that is okay. Recognize who these people are. And it doesn't matter. Friends, acquaintances, co-workers, family members, because understand this, family dynamics, family family, they are people as well. And, you don't, they're family, but that's it. They're family. They're people. And some family members, you may not get along with some family members, not good or bad, right or wrong. You may just not be aligned, with the right energy or vibes. And that is okay. It's not that you're bad or they're bad. No, absolutely not. It's simply that you just have, and what I have found also is that even some family members, even though they may have been there all along, but as you are evolving and changing and developing into this person of 100% authentic and bold and confident and assertive, they may not like you. Certain people are used to the version of you that they know. They know this version of you, and that's what they want. You become this version, you become a version that have outgrown them, perhaps. And they may not like it. And they may say, well, who does she think she is? Well, it's not that you think you're anything. It's just that you know who you are. You know that you're growing. You know that you are evolving into. And the best thing is that is for you. It's not for them. Whether that be friends or acquaintances or family, it doesn't matter. And chances are, you may even outgrow your immediate circle, your spouse. That's possible. That is possible. If your spouse doesn't engage in your growth, you may outgrow each other. That's why those vows that says, to honor and obey till death do us part, that it could be a physical death or it could be death of a relationship. That's a hard pill to swallow. That's why I said a marriage that has longevity doesn't mean, to me, it doesn't mean a whole lot, simply because if there is no quality, if it has longevity, but if it's longevity, years of suffering, years of tolerating, years of disrespect and all that, then 50 years of marriage means absolutely nothing. For me, it's the quality of the relationship. If there's respect, then there's love. There is attention, there's affection, and there's fun together. There's adventure and spontaneity and joy and all of that. That's what we should all desire, or that's really what we all desire. Because if you get into a relationship, or even the relationship that you're in now with your husband, you want to be able to do fun stuff. You want to be able to enjoy each other, not just in your intimate moments. In your intimate moments, you want to really, just be intimate and be yourself and so forth. But outside of that, you want to be able to sit and chat and to have conversations and to have, experiences together that you can share and enjoy. So it's not just 50 years of being married. There's no, for me, there's no accolades to that. There's no, I'm not about to clap for that. It's great, but if it's, it's like my mom, she had a few years married, and her joy was in raising 3 girls and getting them off to college. And after that, she says adios. And I salute her for that. I respect her for that, because when I was young, I didn't, in my mind, I just couldn't process. But I knew one thing I knew, and I couldn't process how all that worked, because I know that one time she almost left and so forth. But one thing I do know is that I would not submit to that kind of relationship. That was marked in my mind, and I wasn't traumatized. I just knew that that's not what I would, of course, somebody that's responsible and good provider and so forth. But disrespect, that's why I'm so big on respect. I don't care if you love me, respect comes through. Because when you respect someone, more than likely, there is love in that, but you can say, I love you, I love you. How many people, they get married, they love each other, and then, they on a lot, they kill the person, or on, so that's just my thing. Once you understand who you are, understand the purity uh, of who you are, and align it with the truth of you. Align it with the truth of you. And know that all of that is not, get rid of all the conditioning, get rid of all the indoctrination, get rid of all the programming, and you take your pen and redefine what it means to you. Redefine what it means to you. It takes boldness to do that, but I encourage you to do it, because really it's part of your evolution, and it's going back to who you are. And you will see, you are returning to your sacred self. Remember, shame is something that was taught, guilt was inherited, but pleasure, that was always pure. Pleasure was always pure. Since when was pleasure a bad thing? Any kind of pleasure. I know I've always said on my show, I've always shared that the purpose of life is pleasure. And some people don't relate to that. Well, I'm sharing it with you now. And pleasure is not about indulgence. It's about remembrance. It's about remembrance. Remembering that you are alive. That you are alive. This is your evolution. The revolution to your evolution. It reminds you that you are alive, because pleasure is what brings life, reminds you of life. It reminds you that you are alive. Reminds you that you are alive. My friend, as you can see or perceive, I am passionate about sharing this with you. And I know that many of you are really gleaning from the things that I share. And just know that who you are. You are the temple. You are the altar. And pleasure and your divine expression is pure. Redefine purity here. It's not abstinence, but as alignment, where your spirit, your body, and your truth finally make love to each other. They're not fighting against each other. They're not fighting against each other, your body and your spirit. You yield to your truth, and they make love to each other. I'm going to leave you with that so that you can sup on that. Every Thursday, we have a date right here, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. And if you can't meet me here, you see the icons over here, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You can pick up the show 24/7. I am also a life coach, and you can drop me an email to this email here, info@thecynthialinoxshow.com. And I do offer 30 minutes complimentary chat, just to make sure that we are aligned. Because once you hire me as a coach, your life is about to change. You're going to go through an evolution, because I will walk right beside you and support you and guide you in your evolution. Make the investment in yourself. You deserve it. I will see you next week, same time, same place, same channel, with something new. Ciao, amigos. Have a fantastic weekend. It's going to be wet over here in my side of town. Whatever you do, just make it fun. Enjoy.